I'm going to talk about an overview of the workers' compensation system. The reason why we start back there is the simple fact of the matter is in Australia, and Harney's proven a business case, but here in Australia, companies need money to fund ageing workforce initiatives. So this is about reviewing the compensation system scheme and how you can save some money and then reinvest that back into your workforce. Money talks. We've always found it difficult to go in and sell prevention at a senior CEO MD level, but it's pretty easy to sell. You know, we're going to add $1 million to your bottom line over two years. So that's the reason why we work in this fashion. The other reason why I'm starting from back there is similar when businesses, large businesses go to self-insurance, they have to get their backyard tidied up first. They have to nail their workers' compensation, have a good early intervention focus, and so forth. So in a similar vein to that, we're going to step through that. I've got the terms the human maintenance schedule, and we've got the reactive management process, preventive management process, predictive management process. These were formed when we were looking at the ageing workforce, when we were talking to a lot of our manufacturing clients, and the fact that when they look at their machine, when the machine breaks down, that's reactive maintenance. So when a worker breaks down, and they've got a work cover claim or a comp claim, it's a reactive. When you look at preventive management, that would be a machine gets serviced every 6 months, or they've got programmed maintenance schedules on their machines. So in a similar fashion, if you can move early and you're in the early intervention phase, you might avoid the claim. What Harney's been talking about in the workability model, we like to think that that's a pure predictive management process, which I think is true early intervention. So you can see it coming and implement strategies before it actually happens. So I think that index, and Harney putting that in context, is a fantastic way of looking at a predictive model, and that's where we want to get to. A recap of the workers' compensation system here. As I said, we've got friends from the Comcare scheme and WorkSafe. This can get complex. When people are caught up in the scheme, it can become complex. In the workers' compensation state scheme, you've got WorkSafe and 6 insurers that act for on behalf of those, and as I mentioned, we've got GIO here as one of those. Under the Comcare scheme, they're the authority and the agent on that fact. And quite often we've got referrals get made to rehabilitation organisations. They work with the workers and the workers' training practitioner, which is fine. The point here is, where's the employer? And we see this time and time again, particularly in a state-based scheme, is that the employer feels a little bit out of control. So the idea is to fundamentally put the employer back in control, and they are liaising with all the relevant parties and keeping control of the situation. In fact, we'll talk about the legislation moving forward. There's been some changes to the Accident Compensation Act, and it's basically in law now that the employer needs to move early and needs to take control of this subject. What we've found over many years of working with organisations is if an employer is in control, you get the financial savings, but you also get the cultural change. And we'll talk about a few examples of what we've seen over the years. Financial obligations, as I said, money talks. What we've found over the last 7-8 years we've been in this game is that over the first 2 years of implementing some of the strategies we're talking about here today, that work cover scheme insurers will save an average of 50% on the work cover premium in the first 1 to 2 years. That's big dollars. And so if you're talking about a premium of $1 million or $2 million, there's some big savings that you can then reinvest. And that's the important part, the reinvestment part. So they can be reinvested into OH&S, ageing workforce initiatives. So you've got the funding to roll out the workability index and the interventions that go with it. Operational needs, training support, which is something that we've talked about. The managers quite often don't have the ability to manage that well, so training them up in that. So all the money you save can be filtered back into that. The interesting thing we always find, and it's a common question, James, and I'll throw to the CEOs and managing directors we're talking about, is they budget for everything. They'll budget for stationery or for glasses, cover, whatever it may be, they'll budget for everything. Quite often you ask them if they've got a budget for work cover. And they say, oh, no, I've just sort of got what I've got last year, added a bit to it, assuming it's going to increase, and that's what we've thrown down. But claims costs associated with work cover claims are manageable. And we've found time and time again, you reduce the claims cost, you reduce premium. It's a pretty simple formula. The term self-managing claims, we use self-manage a lot in a range of different contexts. But we don't want to solely rely upon third parties to manage these claims. So again, when you've got your work cover insurer, they can only really help you when there's a claim, can't they? Yeah. So they've got to have an accepted claim. Now, for that to take place, it could be a long period of time. So you've got to move fast in the system, and you can. And if you move fast in the system, it's going to be to the benefit of worker and employer. So it's really important to move very, very quickly. This is a case study here. This is an aged care facility, which we've been helping with for just over 12 months. And as you can see, when we first got engaged, they were on a significant increase. And with the measurements, we've said we can reduce the premium from that level down to there. And that's really by moving from a reactionary work cover model, resolving those claims. And we're still in the process of doing that. It's going to take a while. And then you're moving from that to an early intervention process where you're working outside of the framework. And we've got some aged care people here, I think. Yes? The ageing workforce is a massive issue, in particular in the aged care setting. So then you can grab those savings and implement into the ageing workforce. I've found that we haven't got too many 19-year-olds want to become personal care assistants, do they? No, so exactly. There seems to be an aging issue there. The interesting thing about this aged care organisation is they're going through significant organisational change. The place is getting shaken up. They've had a lot of changes at senior management level, and that's filtering down. And we're all aware that we're going to get a lot of work cover claims as a result of that. The fact is they'll still get those savings because they know how to manage their claims better. So don't be afraid of the claim form itself. It's just how you manage it within the scheme. Case study B there is a manufacturer out in Roeville that we started working with, I think, in 2003, 2004. And they were out of control. To put this in perspective, they were paying about $700,000. They had 100 staff members. So that's $7,000 a worker. That's just, that's bottom line, straight off their profit. That is a significant amount of money. They had no idea what to do. They weren't doing a great deal wrong, this is the point. They were going through the standard 101 work cover process. They're thinking, what is going on? And their premium and their claims costs kept increasing. So we've worked with them for a number of years now, and the cumulative savings that we've found are in the millions. Now, the powerful point here is that, again, we've got about 100 staff members. They're now below 100,000 in premium. They're now $1,000 per week. And we've got some further statistics on this company moving forward, but our thoughts are, and our analysis is telling us, if we go to the next step with this company and implement the predictive monitoring process, using the workability concept and the workability index, we'll be able to get that down to about 500 per worker. So the return on investment is mind-blowing. So you've not only got the return on investment that Hani talked about, you've got this, and work cover premium is pure profit, pure bottom line, and so that's really powerful when we're talking to senior managers. So back to the agenda here, we've got the reactive management process. So what to do when there's a claim. Case study. We've got some local councils here, don't we? Now, I'll use them as a bit of an example. We've got Charlie, who works for, where are you from? Your city of Monash?
Monash.
City of Monash. And he's in Parks and Gardens. And Charlie, he's finished his job, and he needs to bend down, squat down, put the chainsaw back in the back of the ear. So, bang, knee's gone. Feels a twinge in his knee. Ouch, that hurt. So, goes up to his doctor, walks up to yourself, and here's a certificate of capacity. With that, you're obliged to say, do you want to fill out a claim form? That then ventures from the manager to the return to work coordinator, and therefore gets sent off to the insurer, in your case, GO, and they make a determination of liability. What happens is, with respect to GO, they'll send out letters to this particular worker, citing lots of different sets